In this video I'm going to go over how to import sprites and various tricks of the trade that you can employ with your sprites to kind of speed up the process. For the demo that I'm making, it's going to be Sonic on a surfboard riding around picking up eggs on a grass field. It doesn't make a lot of sense, but it's kind of a simple top-down movement that I could showcase pretty easily in this demo. So I'm going to start off importing the sprite. So I'm going to create a sprite right here. I'm going to choose Edit Sprite and create from strip because I'm using a sprite sheet, which is also called a strip, sprite strip. So I've got the strip I found online. Looks pretty intense, but the surfboard item I found is down here. That's the one I'm going to use. And there's these two squares because I'm using two images with 2 images per row, so that just means one row of 2 images that I want to use. And these will be the sizes of the squares. I can move this around, and I just want to get it around this little surfboard region as close as I can to what I think is right. As long as everything's in there, you can modify it later. So I'm going to make the width 35, that looks about right. And I'm going to go with 56 for the height. Now I click OK, and I've got 2 separate images here. One is the first in the animation, one is the second. And I have this thing over here that says Show Preview that's checked, and that'll show you what it'll look like at the game speed. The speed of the room is 30 right now, which means there's 30 frames per second. I can slow it down to 2, so you can see kind of what we want there. It's just some subtle idle animation for Sonic. I'll put it back to 30 because that's the room speed. This is a little small, so I'm going to make it bigger. So I'm going to use stretch, and I'm going to make it just twice as big. Check excellent quality. Alright, so there's Sonic. I actually managed to cut it pretty much perfectly in the squares. If one image, if it seems to like vibrate a little bit, that means one of the cells isn't centered appropriately. This is extremely common. I just got lucky here. You go into one of the objects, and you can switch between them with this arrow here. This is the second one, and a quick way to do it is to choose Shift, and you can say how many pixels you want to offset it vertically or horizontally. There's also other various things you can do, like mirroring it, rotating it, making it bigger, skew it a little bit, and you have these kind of paint tools on the left to adjust it if need be. I didn't need that in this situation though. I'm just going to click OK, and this looks about right. The thing is, when it's 30 frames per second, it's replaying this sequence 15 times in 1 second. Quick way to do this, to fix this, is to just pad it, which is creating additional cells in between to artificially slow the animation down. So if I do this, it should look a little bit more appropriate. So we have it quick there. That's 16 frames. So both of these things will happen roughly 2 times a second. There's actually an easy way to do it. I can set this to be 30 frames instead of 2 by choosing Stretch and changing it to 30. And this will make one frame happen 15 times and the other one happen 15 times. And that slows it down to be a more appropriate idle animation. And it says 29 at the bottom because it's 0 to 29 instead of 1 to 30. So if I click OK, I've got my sprite. And I'm going to want to change the collision. There's currently just a rectangle collision on him. That's probably okay. I'm going to switch to disk. Seems to fit it a little bit better. If we choose precise here, it'll go exactly to the pixel what is correct. I discussed earlier in class that this can often cause problems. In this case it looks like it wouldn't, but I go with disk anyway. Precise is more computationally expensive, which means it's more difficult for the processor to handle. That's not the main reason I dislike it. The main reason I dislike it is because a lot of people use JPEG images, and if you leave it on precise without looking, JPEG images tend to have little artifacts, pixels with color that aren't necessarily what you see from far away, but from close up you can see them. And the image treats this as a colored pixel, therefore it treats it as something that should collide. So I like to use rectangle, disk, or diamond, or just these manual bounding boxes instead of precise, just to be safe, and it's generally a better idea in my opinion. And we're going to rename this sprite Sonic Up, or straight. I'm going to rotate this later. Now we're going to import another sprite, the same way we did it before. I'm going to do create from strip. I'm going to choose these diagonal looking pieces here for just diagonal sections. And I kind of got it on the nose there, it looks like, with the sizing. So now if I look at the video, it's shifting a little bit. That means something's wrong. The issue at hand here is that it's not perfectly centered, so I'm going to shift one of these over a little bit. I'm going to try shifting it negative 4 or negative 2. It seems to be getting cut off if I do any more than 2 or 3, so I'll stick with 2. Okay. And that seems to be exactly right. Let's stretch this like we did the other one, 200%, twice as big. And we don't want it at a speed of 2, we want it at a speed of 30 frames per second, so we're going to use a little stretch technique and change it to 30. That slows it down appropriately. Another thing to notice or note is when you edit something in this window, it applies to all of the graphics. So say if you were doing something the wrong direction the entire time, you can flip them all at once. This can come in handy, and it's good to know. Click OK, and I'll change this to Sprite Sonic Diagonal. And another thing that's important to note that I wasn't doing before is I should crop these so there's no unused border pixels. That way I know that when I end up changing my origin to the center, I know I'm exactly in the center. And this is kind of the control point. Whenever you reference the object, the center will be where you choose this origin. And I forgot to do it on the straight one, so I'm going to do that now. Crop and go with center. And I'm also going to make sure I don't have precise collision on this one. And I have it on rectangle. Let's go with disk. Alright, that's importing.